Welcome back to Conquering Retirement with the team from Northern Alliance Financial. This week on the program, Lance Gilman, CEO, Jeremy Bernard, financial advisor, and I'm your host, Spike Spangle. Gentlemen, it is great to see you. We have one of those programs today that I really enjoy doing because you see folks every single day in your offices. We can do research and we can try to educate people as much as we want to, but I want to talk about some of the kinds of questions you guys actually get in the offices. How do you help untangle people's knots? Do you mind if I do some of our consumer questions and go through the kinds of issues that people are hitting?
Sure.
One of the biggest ones I think that we see on the internet, sometimes you get in emails, and definitely when people come into your office, is $1 million enough to retire today? Didn't that used to be the magic number, Lance? People say, we got $1 million, that's what we're shooting for. Is that a good target number for today? Does that do it?
It's just an arbitrary thing to me. And to me, it's like almost like a scare tactic. I think it's a bunch of hogwash.
You heard it right here.
Nonsense.
It's a bunch of hogwash.
It's nonsense.
It's a bigger number than people realize, too. I know, we hear the federal government's trillions of dollars in debt. We hear about billions of dollars being spent on X, Y, Z. But for an individual to save for retirement and have $1 million, it's still a substantial number.
It's a lot of money.
The mathematics are really challenging depending on your situation. And even, I just looked at this recently that if you're 25 years old, you have to save $400 a month and get an average rate of return of 7% before you have $1 million.
Fairly aggressive.
Yeah, I would say that's an aggressive number.
You have to get 7% before it's 65. So from 25 to 65, $400 a month, and then you'll have $1 million. There are not a lot of 25 and 30-year-olds who can do $400 a month. Yeah. So now we're in our 40s, we start making some more money, and we got to start doing catch-up contributions. But, getting to $1 million when you start in your 40s is pretty rough, pretty difficult.
I think also the other kind of underlying factor is it really depends on what somebody has in terms of their debt structure and other things that could really mitigate the amount of money that you actually need to be happy in your retirement and to maintain that standard of living. Yeah. So I think it's not so, obviously the objective is to try to save as much as you can, not to be over saving so that you're scrimping around every second of the moment.
You want to live your life.
You need to be able to live, right, while you can. But the objective is 10% of every pay period as early as possible, right, as we talked about before, to get those compounding rates of return. But the other objective, which I think is really even more critical, is just paring down those debts so that you can get to a place where you feel like you're in range of being debt-free in retirement. And that, I think, Spike, more than some kind of arbitrary number that somebody's throwing out there on the internet or wherever, is more critical to a peaceful transition and an anxiety-free transition into retirement.
Because, Jeremy, you and I have also talked before over an adult beverage or two. Maybe $1 million is more than enough. Maybe it's not even close. It more depends on what our monthly expenditures are. So do you start there with folks? Like, hey, let's what do you actually spend each year, each month?
Right. That's a real practical, tangible number. What do you spend each month? How much does it cost for lights, food in the fridge, and all of that? Those things. Tom Hegna, wonderful national speaker, talks about paychecks and playchecks. And that's a great way. What do you need for paychecks every month? I.e., what does it cost just to run your household, bare bones, on a monthly basis? What is that paycheck number? And then we get to have the much funner conversation about playchecks. Once we get the paychecks taken care of, how much do we have in playchecks? I try to focus it that way versus, again, this obscure number of $1 million, which, again, it just feels good, but only because it feels like we've been conditioned to think it's the right number.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a meaningful number, make sure you can achieve it on a monthly basis, and then go live the life that you've always wanted to.
I think I may have been reading something in your brand new book, and this is not an unshameless plug. We do want you to get a complimentary copy of the book. You come in for an appointment, you get a Conquering Retirement book. But something you were mentioning about taxes, I go back to that $1 million. I've heard you say before that a lot of folks think that they have $1 million saved in something like a 401k, but you don't actually have $1 million. What were you talking about there?
Well, you've got tax implications there because you think about you're saving a bunch of money into your 401k. That's all pre-tax dollars, right? And so you're plugging away, trying to hit that arbitrary number that somebody put in the sky and doing the best that you can. But when you actually think about it, once the taxes are applied to those dollars, that could be much, much less than the actual $1 million that you were talking about. Could be as much as 20, 30, or even higher percent lower than what you now. So instead of $1 million, now you're talking about 650 or 600. And again, these are just arbitrary numbers. So what's really critical is to get some analytics on your portfolio right now. Get some analytics in terms of how you're currently allocated and figure out, let's do some planning and get the actual math behind what it looks like for your cash flow both now and projected in retirement. That sets the plan, because then what we can do is take all of your assets and try to structure that cash flow in retirement, which is going to give you that peace of mind to know for certain with the math behind it, right? Jeremy, we talk about this all the time. The math does not lie.
Yes.
To get you on that glide path.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things I've joked about before, when somebody says, is $1 million enough? Is this enough? And I go, well, I can answer that if you can tell me one thing. How long are you going to live?
Oh.
I mean, if you're 62 and you got $1 million and you only live to 65, I think you're covered. You're probably fine. But,
all right.
But do you do that as well when people come to you with the number and the amount and go, well, wait a second, you're 62, you want to retire on this at 63? I don't know if that number's enough. Do you need to bring in the factor of how long are we going to work as well?
Oh, yeah. And when we look at those dynamics with people, and again, the analytics of it all, we've got the software and the ability to, in real time, I call stress test the plan. So again, if you do live to 75, the plan is solid and it's good to go. But what happens if you live to 80? Oops, now we're starting to run into some problems. So we can, in real time, imagine, if you will, a multitude of different scenarios. I mean, dozens and dozens of scenarios, stress testing them in a variety of ways and making sure that that plan is worth a whole lot more than the paper it was written on, because it's real to you.
And that's exactly what we do for the folks who call into the program. We want to get you started on your own written financial plan. Look, there is no cost to come into the office. There is no cost for us to do this review. We do it for the fellow folks of ours who live here in the great state of Maine, because we want to make sure that you can be and stay retired. You are part of our community, and we want to make sure that all of us can enjoy the retirement path of our dreams. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work. Sometimes it takes a little bit more savings. How much is enough for you? We can help you determine that. But there's only one way to do that, by you calling the phone number you see below down here on the screen. Schedule an appointment, and when you do that, we'll also give you a complimentary copy of Lance's brand new book, Conquering Retirement, just for coming on into the office. So call the phone number you see below. Good debt and bad debt. We'll discuss that going into retirement right after this.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carolyn 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there or be square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion...
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Conquering Retirement with the team from Northern Alliance Financial right here in Maine. Lance Gilman, CEO, Jeremy Bernard, financial advisor, both of them financial advisors. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, and today we're taking some of your viewer questions and opinions, wondering what's going on. And I love the next one. There's another name out there in financial services who always says, get rid of your debt, right? Go into retirement, be debt-free. And I understand, and I think it's a responsible message. But I don't know if that helps with building wealth necessarily. I understand. But there's also, Lance, you mentioned a few minutes ago, good debt and bad debt. What are you talking about there? How do you feel about debt moving into retirement?
Well, you have to look at debt as something that kind of enslaves you, right? You do. Because it's, you know, basically when somebody's lending you money, then there's conditions on that lending, right? And what if for some godforsaken reason, all of a sudden you can't pay that debt? Well, there are strings attached to that debt. And so therefore, we want to try to move towards being as debt-free as possible, get those strings and those chains off us to be free in retirement. Sometimes you hear advisors out there say, well, if you've got a low interest rate, let's say you've mortgaged your home and it's 3%.
Okay.
Well, if you know you could get a guarantee of 5%, then you could kind of clear the difference. So that might work in that scenario. But if you can't have that guarantee, then that debt just becomes that chain again, and we want to loose those chains so you can be free.
Given that guarantee, though, I mean, that is what I talk to a lot of clients about, because some people are, again, it's just kind of ingrained in our brains, in our psyche as a society to be debt-free at all costs. But again, low fixed rate mortgages is the classic example. That could be good debt. If I can get my money growing at 4, 5, 6%, my debt's only costing me 3%. And I always tell people, wealth is built a percentage point at a time. And so if my debt's at 3, but my assets are growing at 5, there's 2% difference. That's growing your net worth over time, and it'll be meaningful. It does, in my opinion, match the definition of good debt.
Right. But that's something that makes me scratch my head now and then, is I've heard people say, look, because of somebody I saw on TV or saw online said, be debt free. And they've got their 401k, let's say they're 65, and they've rolled it over, and they're able to withdraw funds from it or from an investment account, wherever it might be, and they say, okay, well, I've got 30 grand left on the mortgage. I'm told to be debt-free. I want to take that chunk and I want to put it in the house. That way I'm done with the mortgage. So let's say it was one of those low ones. Is this a mistake, or is this getting the monkey off our back of debt?
Well, that's a tough thing, but most of the time we are not going to recommend that somebody take money out of their retirement funds to pay off debt, especially if it's in a low interest account. Because again, now there aren't many low interest bearing accounts right now that are being offered in terms of mortgages and other things. Rates are getting as high as 5, 6, 7% for mortgage rates right now.
Sure.
But let's say you had a mortgage and you've had it for 15, 20 years.
Right.
And that mortgage is like 2.5%. Keep in mind, we take that money out of that 401k to pay off that debt. What do you have to do when you take that money out? You got to pay tax on that, right? And you're increasing your income at the same time. So two things can happen.
Tax bracket
can actually go up. There's a lot of moving pieces with that, and so normally we would not recommend doing that under many circumstances.
One tiny piece of a complicated puzzle. I want to ask you, so obviously financial advisors, obviously you have the team of each other to bounce things off of, but where do you guys stay informed? Where do you, besides using the applications and the math, let the numbers work, right? What kind of things do you guys pay attention to help you keep informed? Because there's a lot of noise out there. I wonder how much of that you watch. What sources do you like to use, Jeremy?
Typically, I don't watch much television, quite honestly, because it is so hyped up. I don't want to hear or see people like slamming tables and lights going off and all that stuff. Like the truth or the nuggets of truth that you might pick up I think are far overshadowed by the stress that might cause me. So I've got a variety of periodicals that I like to subscribe to, part of 3 different national organizations that really disseminate really good foundational information and factual changes that are going on in the law, in the economy, in the state of Maine. And then, of course, the professional development that we do just as a matter of course that amounts to, at least 100 hours a year of training that we do in various sectors. And there's always stuff that pops up randomly here and there. And we, of course, avail ourselves to all of that. Things are changing so fast. It feels like it's worse than ever. Like people ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, I'm doing great, but everything's changing so fast. Like, I know that's a sign of me getting old, perhaps, but
no, I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's one of the you are getting old.
Thanks.
No, it's that it was something I talked about on a radio show recently. And I know you guys also have your weekly radio show, 4 different channels all throughout the weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. But it's one of the reasons that we put up the phone number all of the time. We've become such a quick response and wanting quick response. Text messages and apps, almost all of the big majors have had lots of fines from the SEC from using things like messaging and WhatsApp. Is this why you like to use the phone number to make sure? Because we need to talk to people over the phone, see them in person. This isn't marketing through texting and messaging. You can't actually perform functions through texting, correct?
No, and you wouldn't want to either. I mean, this is somebody's retirement, right? And we're planning for their retirement. It's a very personal thing. And our basic premise is we want to see the people in the office. Now, of course, through COVID and all that, sometimes for whatever reason, people just can't come into the office. We will do some virtual communications, but that's a very slim minority. We actually are going to want to see face-to-face plan, and most people in Maine appreciate that. Yeah. What we do as comprehensive fiduciary planners is very unique because we're looking at all aspects of somebody's financial portfolio, not just their actual portfolio that they have invested, but we're looking at the other components for a comprehensive plan, like budgeting and Social Security and tax considerations, long-term care, risk management, Medicare and estate and legal planning. That all encompasses a comprehensive financial plan. Now, there are other fiduciary firms that do this kind of thing, but they're outside of the state typically. And most people in Maine are going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to actually see you face to face, and they're going to want to shake your hand and look you in the eye and know that there's a sense of trust there. Because what are they doing? They've saved all their lives. And this is what they have. And now they're saying, okay, I need some help with this because this is not my thing. I'm not a financial person. I know you are, and I trust what you do. I see you guys on TV. I know you've written books. I see you on the radio. You guys are everywhere, right? And so I trust you. But the other piece of it is I want to see you. I want to interface with you on a regular basis, and that's part of what we do at Northern Alliance.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Folks, call the phone number on the bottom of the screen. We want to meet you in person. We want to be able to help you in person. Aren't you tired of having to send emails to a customer service that doesn't get back to you, or an 800 phone number that we're pretty sure isn't anywhere in the United States trying to help you out? Call us right here. We're right here in Maine. We want to sit down with you face to face and help you with your retirement planning. And by the way, there's no cost to it. If you're doing okay, we'll pat you on the back after an hour or so, say, keep doing that, let us know if we can help. But if we can identify areas, we'll probably bring you back for another meeting. We'll get in person again, and we'll see what we can help you with. Call the phone number you see right here. More Conquering Retirement with Lance and Jeremy, myself, Spike, right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Conquering Retirement with Lance Gilman, Jeremy Bernard, financial advisors right here in Maine. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, and we're talking about your questions today. And I really do like this one. It's how can we ensure that we don't run out of our savings in retirement? One of the things I know that you guys will do is say we can put together a plan. We can make sure that you can't outlive your savings. That's kind of a bold statement. How do you feel comfortable doing that? What kind of tools do you use for that?
We have a variety of tools, both the software and then financial tools to make sure that these are happening, that offer guarantees, and lots of different ways to strategize the money. One of the things I want to focus on real quick, though, is what you just said there. I mean, think about what we can do for some people. We can help them identify with guarantees, with certainty, with only a couple of assumptions what their retirement's going to be. So many people we deal with, Lance, are just, they come in, maybe they got a rental property, they got this, wood lot, they've got a small little pension, like 401k. Put all these pieces together and figure out what your retirement's going to be. That's not a small task.
No, for sure.
And we take that on all the time. It's super interesting. We have the ability to really make sense of it, organize it, categorize it. From a tax perspective, how do we be the most efficient with it? So I think my answer to that, I guess a long-winded answer to that question, would be we're first of all going to analyze what you have, optimize it to the best of our ability. With the analytics that we have, we can do that, and then put the plan in place. And here's the last piece that's critically important, is the ongoing monitoring of that plan. As the years go on, we have to pay attention to it. We can set guarantees in place in terms of income and those sorts of things, but nonetheless, we want to evaluate it because things change. When I think about where we are now in 2023 with bank CDs and interest rates and all this stuff, I would have bet $1 million we would never have been here even just a year and a half ago.
True.
But that's how quick things change.
We are also living longer than we ever have. Healthcare continues to go up. We've talked about costs of inflation and so forth. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep on you on this on the not running out. If I do simple math on myself, here's what I've got saved, and I divide it by 30 years and then however many months, and I dole out, okay, this is how much I could spend. I know eventually I would run out. I'm not clear. How do you get to the not running out? It's not just Social Security you're talking about.
No, you have to have you have to put all of that together, and that's kind of what Jeremy was saying is, so you've got items out there in terms of your income that are guaranteed. So we know that, for instance, Social Security, what those projections are going to look like. And we can run tools that will show us not only what your Social Security is going to look like, but also if you're married, what your spouse's Social Security is going to look like, and strategies that we could employ to maximize those to the best extent possible. We have projections for essentially when you would decide to check out of the planet, not that you would decide that, but when you're checking out of the planet is going to be predicted. And so, those are your longevity projections. So now we want to take those longevity projections and then look at your guaranteed sources of income that also have inflation of cost of living projections, which Social Security would. If you have a pension, same thing there. And then what's the rest of your nest egg look like? If you have rental income, as you said before, okay, well, here's another set of income. And we start to piece all this together. When you put it all together and you run it through the actual analytic tools that we have, it will give us a likelihood of a percentage. And when you get to 99 or 100%, that's pretty darn good.
And we do have the financial tools too. When somebody says, look, I just ran into a client who was like, I just want $1,000 a month every month for the
Guaranteed.
rest of my life, no matter what. I don't want to think about the stock market.
Yeah.
She even said this. She was polite, but she's like, I don't even want to meet with you. I just want to have $1,000 a month. And I was like, try not to take that personally.
Yeah.
Never heard anybody say that to me before.
I don't want to meet with you. I just want my $1,000. Okay.
So, but we were able to put that in place. We have the tools where you can create a personal pension that you never outlive. And if she wanted to, she could have had it so that it paid out for her spouse's entire lifetime too. Perfectly guaranteed, contractually guaranteed.
You know,
and so-
that's a fair point. Oh, I'm sorry, Lance. I did, but how much leeway, how much communication, how much working together do you have with your clients? Because there could be some clients who say, I don't want to call a financial advisor, have them manage my money, because then what? I've got to call them when I've got to take money out. How much freedom does the client have to control their own accounts with you?
Anytime they need money, they just need to reach out to us and say, hey, I got to go buy a car. And actually, so we'll talk about it. And a lot of times they'll say, okay, I need $10,000. And we have structured their accounts in such a way that some of them are in protected accounts and some of them are managed risk accounts. And now do we take it out of the safety net here? Do we take it out of the funds that are managed over here? And then it becomes this discussion point, or maybe we take it out of both. But at the bottom line, at the end of the day, that money is there to them within 24 to 48 hours in their bank accounts.
And for newer clients that come on, I tend to meet with them a little more regularly for the first couple of years, just, for the dust to settle on the retirement plan. Everyone's comfortable and hunky-dory and everything's going fine. And then it's probably, every 6 months to a year. But things pop up. And I always say that, listen, we've got an appointment scheduled for 6, 7, 8 months from now. If you need anything, give us a call. I'm always available.
You know what's crazy is it has to be structured that way, and that's tailored. The cadence of how often you're actually meeting with a client. I have had a case where somebody actually passed away in a couple, and I have met with the widower every single month for the past 8 months, trying to piece together all of the assets to help them. And so it really is dependent. But normally we want to see you at least every 6 months, especially if we have assets under management.
Jeremy, what's kind of interesting to me is it sounds like every day you guys come into the office, you don't know what the end of the day is going to look like. Everybody's questions are different. Everybody's situation is different. And do you thrive on that environment?
Oh my gosh, I love it. And to your point too, like it's exciting, it's interesting. We all love having these conversations. It's the reason we're on TV, in person, on the radio, newsletters, all this. It's so fascinating to us, and I really love helping people that way.
Thank you both so very much. Folks, you can call the phone number you see right here on the screen. Get your own complimentary appointment. We would love to help you out. Make our day special by coming in so we can help you. Call the phone number. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.